Praise be to the Lord. I am asking tonight, Father, to really give me wisdom on what you want me to say and how you want me to speak it. I bring it before you, Father, and your wisdom and in your love. Let peace and righteousness flow from this video. Okay. I've been doing some studying on Israel and this thing about Israel being in the desert for 40 years. Well, as I was studying this and really trying to grasp what the Ruach Kadesh was telling me to speak about, he let me know really plain that Israel was really in the desert, the wilderness, more than 40 years. Now, we see Israel leaving the Red Sea, which it took them a few days to get down to the Red Sea from Egypt, where they were held captive at. And then after they crossed the Red Sea, they started, after they sang and danced, because, you've heard the story about Moses' sister taking the tambourine and dancing, and all the women dancing and praising the Lord. To me, that would have took a good day after what I would have seen, but it might have been just an hour or so. But anyway, after that, they left the Red Sea and they made a journey that was a 3-day journey in a wilderness, and they went to this place, Marah, M-A-R-A-H, where there was bitter water. Well, Moses was told what to do to make the bitter water sweet. And that was in Exodus 15. Then we go on down to see they traveled some more into the wilderness of Sin, S-I-N. Well, in Exodus 16, the very first of the chapter here, they are all being out of shape and complaining because they didn't have enough to eat. They didn't have bread to eat. So God heard their complaining and sent them manna from heaven to eat, which they did eat from that day forward, even when they traveled the 40 years in the desert. The manna come. Down in the second half of chapter 16, beginning at verse 12, you see they're complaining again. My goodness, complain. The manna wasn't good enough for them alone. They wanted meat to eat, and they was griping. Why did you bring us out from there? Why didn't you just leave us in Egypt? We had bread, we had meat, And so God hears this, and he sends them quail. He sent them so much quail the first day, to get sick on it. But after they got control of themselves and was eating the quail the way they should, not being hoggish about it, so they move on. So in 17, we'll see that they're in Rephin, where there was no water, none whatsoever. And this is where Noah struck the rock with his rod, and the water come forth from the rock to water them all. Now in chapter 17:8, we see that they had a war with the Ammonites, and they defeated them. So the next thing we see in chapter 19, they're at the Mount Sinai. Now, we know at Mount Sinai, Moses went up into the mountain for 40 days. And that did not prove too fruitful for the children of Israel, because they got to thinking, oh, he's up there, he's dead, he's not coming back, we're stranded out here in this wilderness, what are we going to do? And so they really beginning to complain, and Aaron, as they complained and griped about not having a God to worship, Aaron was the one that created the golden calf that Israel sinned so much. So during this time, we see Moses coming off the mountain and seeing this golden calf, and was really angry, very angry. This is when he breaks the first 2 tablets, the 10 Commandments, because in what they did, they broke the 10 Commandments before they ever got the 10 Commandments. Before they ever knew what was on the tablet, they had broken them all. Right there, right then. They made the golden calf, committed adultery. That was be forbidden on the 10 Commandments once they would ever recognize them. So after Moses had to deal with that, and many paid with their lives over that, now he has to go back up to the mountain, Mount Sinai, to plead for atonement for the children of Israel. This is why that they really believe this happened during the time of Yom Kippur, because it's the atonement. But anyway, Moses had to go back up into that mountain for another 40 days to make atonement for Israel. And in being there, he had to get the new tablets and speak with God and get all the information that God wanted to give him. So we see in Exodus 35 where they make the tabernacle. And the rest of Exodus is about making the tabernacle, about the clothes, that the priests had to wear, about how the table of shewbread, for the shewbread, everything that had to be made was finished up in Exodus. And then we have Leviticus, which they're still out here in this wilderness, and they're getting all the laws and things and instructions for the laws on what they're supposed to do and how to sacrifice the animals. They were in a teaching zone right then. How many days? I have no idea. But they did have to build the tabernacle. They had to build the Ark of the Covenant. They had to build a menorah. They had to kill the animals where they could overlay the tabernacle like they're supposed to, and build the things around the tabernacle. And they had to station the Israelites on how they camp, because certain groups would camp on the north side. Certain groups would camp on the south side. Other groups would camp on the east and west side of the temple. A tabernacle hasn't moved. That's the order that they had to set up all their... When it come time to stop walking and settle down for a while, they had to live in their tents in this order around the tabernacle. And so as long as the fire, that covering, was on the tabernacle, they wouldn't move. But when it come time to move and it was lifted up, then they would move. It never has given any great detail on how many days they would stay at any one given place, nor when would they move. So we go over here to Numbers, and it's recasting on pretty well the things of Exodus and some of Leviticus until you get to the point where the spies are sent out. Now, where were they when the spies were sent out? They had made this walk all the way from Egypt, okay, and they had made it around to Sinai, and then come on down, and they were at the river Jordan. Over on the other side was the promised land. So they were there. They were at the promised land. Did that take 2 years, 3 years, 7 years? I don't know. But it took a while after they left Egypt and they come on down across the Red Sea, it took a while to get to the place where the promised land was. But not 40 years the first time. Because we know that there was 80 days. We know that there was 3 days at another time it mentioned, but it just never gave details. So I really don't know. I think it would be closer to 7 years because God is really big on the number 7. I may be wrong, but I really believe it took, not that many years to get there. But it took a few. And after they got there, what did they do? God told Moses and Aaron to send out spies from all 12 tribes. All 12 tribes. They sent 2 of each man from all 12 tribes out to scour the land, the promised land. So when they come back, 10 of the spies just absolutely said, no, we can't take it. There's giants, Nephilim, over there, and we look like grasshoppers to them. No, we can't take it. So, but there was 2 spies that said, yes, we can take it. We are able to take it. So, what do you see Israel doing? We see in the 14th chapter of Numbers, all of the congregation lifted up their voices and cried, and the people wept that night. So they didn't want to listen to Caleb and Joshua, the 2 spies that said, oh, yes, we can. And here they're out there, you know, and they're crying and moaning, and they're saying, and all the children of Israel murmured against Moses and against Aaron, and the whole congregation said unto them, would God that we had died in the land of Egypt, or would God we had died in the wilderness. And they're crying. You know, just let us die out here in the wilderness. We need to have died over there in that wilderness when we was coming across. We're going to die anyway. We're going to go into this promised land, and they're going to kill us. So, God looks down and he is really upset. I mean, at first, he just wants to wipe them out, you know, and begin again with Moses. And Moses says, oh, no, you can't do that because Egypt back there. It says, and Moses said unto the Lord, then the Egyptians shall hear it, for thou broughtest up these people in thy might from among them, and they will tell it to the inhabitants of the land, for they have heard that the Lord art among these people, and the Lord art seen face to face, and that the cloud standeth over them, and that thus goest before them by day time, and in a pillar of clouds in the a cloud, and in the pillar as far by night. Now thou shalt kill all of these people as one man, then this nation which has heard the fame of three will speak, saying, because the Lord was not able to bring these people into the land which he swore unto them, therefore he has slain them in the wilderness. So Moses was right in there with God, saying, no, you can't do this, because then you're going to be dishonoring your own name. Because people will say, oh, you just brought them out here to slay them in the wilderness. So you see, they're still in the wilderness. But he said, okay, I'll not take their lives, but I will do this. I will do this. He says, your carcasses shall fall in the wilderness, and all that were numbered of you according to your whole number, from 20 years old and upward, which has murmured against me. So what he's saying, I'm going to send you back into that wilderness for 40 years. And everyone from 20 years on up will die. Their bodies will be strung across the wilderness because of their doubt and disbelief. Well, when the people heard this, that they're going to have to spend 40 years out in that wilderness. They've already come across the wilderness. They know what that wilderness is like. They crossed it. And they were going to have to go out there and spend 40 years out in that wilderness. Now, if you already come across it, you know all the troubles and the trials and the hardship and the heat and the stuff out there. They thought it over, you know. So they say to Moses, they want to go back up. They want to go back and take the land. And there was Amalekites and the Canaanites that was on the hill. And Moses told them, no, you can't. I mean, God has already spoken. You said that you weren't able. God believed you. And he said, okay, I accept that. But you're going to have to wander in the wilderness till you're all dead. But the young and Caleb and Joshua gets to go in because they believed. They knew. So these people, some of these people was going to take it upon themselves, and they were going to go up on top of the mountain to take. And Moses told those saying unto all the children of Israel, that the people, the people mourned greatly, and they rose up early in the morning and got them up unto the Lord of the mountains, saying, Lo, we be here, and will go up into the place which the Lord hath promised, for we have sinned. And Moses said, Wherefore now do you transgress the commandment of God? But it shall not prosper. Go not up, for the Lord is not among you, that ye be not smitten before your enemies. My little rascal. For the Ammonites and the Canaanites are there before you. Ye shall fall by the sword, because you are turned away from the Lord. Therefore the Lord will not be with you. So here they go up the mountain. But Moses and the Ark of the Covenant didn't go outside the camp. Now we learn later on that the Ark of the Covenant always goes before Israel in a battle, and they win. But this time, no, it couldn't go, because God had decreed a punishment on them. And they did not want to go back into that wilderness 40 years. They had just come out of it. They didn't want to go back into it. But their punishment was to go back into it. We are much like Israel today. Yeshua, Jesus Christ, died on that cross. He was that lamb, Passover lamb, that they had to slay that night in Egypt when Israel come out of Egypt. That was why they come out. When we have his blood applied to our life, we have his presence over us, in us, around us. And we're walking through this desert of time, this earth as it is. It's the wilderness. We're in the wilderness of the desert. We're out there wandering around, because this world is a world of Egypt, but yet we're in the desert, because once you come out and you're saved and purified by the blood of the Lamb, you are no longer in Egypt. You're no longer of this world. You've come out, and now you're in the wilderness wandering around until he takes you home or he comes and gets you, one or the other. We are coming to the point of time that we can see the River Jordan ahead. We can see the Promised Land right over there. So in this day and time, it is not time to get disheartened and turn back. There are many people will say and have said, I've heard this thing about Jesus Christ and him coming back for years and years and years, and he hasn't come yet. My grandparents believed he was coming, and he didn't come. My great-grandparents believed he was coming, and he didn't come. So what he goes and says, what that person is saying, is just what Israel said at the River Jordan when they come back with a bad report. Because sometimes you have to take over. You have to fight the enemy. Battle him one-on-one within here, this heart. Controlling these thoughts. But we're at that Promised Land right now. But are you going to believe the 10 spies that say we can't do it? We are not mighty enough. We are not able to take over the Promised Land and drive those things out that needs to be out. Are you going to be fearful and run at the last minute? We need to know who we are. and where we come from. We need to know we've come through that wilderness. And we are now at the River Jordan. We are about to cross over. But let me tell you, there will be people that won't be able to cross over. And you wonder why they will go through the great tribulations. It's their time to wander in the desert and be tried by fire. That's exactly what's going to happen. There is a group that's going to be able to go ahead and cross over Jordan into the promised land. But there is that group that is sitting back there going, no, it won't happen. No, it won't happen. Let me tell you, we're at the edge of the wilderness. We are near to crossing over Jordan into the promised land. Which will you choose? Will you choose to take a hold and cross over and possess the promised land as he has told us to do? Or will you choose to be fearful and run back into the desert to spend another 40 years, 40 years out there in the desert? Which it won't be 40 years. The Great Tribulations is upon us, so I don't think it'll be 40 years, but you'll wonder out in the 40 years. And many will have to die. Their bodies will be scattered across this land, this world, because they refuse to believe and cross over. They refuse, so therefore they have to wander in the wilderness and taste of the fire. Either they will give themselves over to the world, or they will give themselves wholly over to Yeshua, Jesus Christ. I just felt like bringing this and pointing this out. We forget, yes, Israel wandered in the desert 40 years, but that 40 years was after she had already made it to the promised land. All she had to do was cross over and possess it, and she wouldn't do it. We know what the wilderness is back there. I personally don't want to go back into it. I don't want to wander through those 40 years, or 7 years, or however many years we have to wander before he comes on the great white, the horse, and the 1,000 years begin. It is time to wake up and see where you are at. It is time to make a stand in your heart and your mind to live and serve him, and knowing that through him you can possess the promised land. Father, you moved on me to bring this message. And Father, I know we stand at the banks, and I plead for people to understand this message and desire to come out of the wilderness and cross over. I praise your holy name. I beseech you, Father, to send out the Holy Ruach Kadesh to let the people know we are there right now, standing on the banks. I can look over. I can look over and see the palm trees. I can see the beautiful trees growing with the beautiful fruits on them. I can see the rows of grapes that are big as a man's head. I can see it already in my mind. I can look over and I see it, and the time is now to stand up and make a choice and decide today who you will serve. in the name of Yeshua HaMashiach.